Welcome to the Pearls of Wisdom podcast, brought to you by Southern Jewelry News and Jewelry Store Marketers. Hello, everyone. This is Guy Panetta with Jewelry Store Marketers, and I am here again at the RJO show doing your next episode for the Pearls of Wisdom Jewelry podcast. And I am here with Elisa Dillon, as always, my lovely co-host from Southern Jewelry and Mid-America Jewelry News.
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello. And today we have a special guest, Mark Priest from
Legend
Jewelers.
San Angelo, Texas.
Okay.
That's right, about 3 hours north and west of
We
here.
got a Texan at the Texas show in RJO.
Boy, what's the chances of that?
I'm telling you what.
So, Mark, why don't you tell us about you, your store, and
We're a pretty unique place. Number one, because we're out in West Texas. It's really rural. The economy in the area is based upon agriculture, mostly winter wheat as well as cotton, and then we have a lot of the cattle business, and then the oil and gas. And so we're a community of about 100,000 people, but we have communities that we trade with that are as far as 60, 70 miles away, which is way out of the ordinary. So people, they drive a long way just to come to the grocery store. And I think that in a more rural setting like that, trust is probably the biggest single number one thing. I mean, it is anyway, but you know, you can make an inroad by going to a small community and you get a customer there and you end up doing business with the whole community.
Right.
Well, you plug in the fact that I've been doing this 48 years and I have a long following, and we're a full service jewelry store, you know, from simplest repair to the most creative custom design from scratch.
Yeah.
And that experience comes evidently from all those years, but it also makes us I think desirable for the customers because we have that experience.
Yeah.
Right. Now, we're at RJO here. It's a great organization of fine jewelers, and there's a ton of really great jewelers around the country. And just like you said, a lot of them do all these great services in great communities. But there's something special that makes your store stand out. What would that be?
It really is. The building that the jewelry store is in is a 2-story building. And it was a historically significant building, back in the 50s and 60s, well, through to now, in that the community knows our building is called the Miss Hattie Building. You know, not unusual for an old bank building from the 20s to exist, right? You know, but it was called the Miss Hattie's Building because for 50 years, from the turn of the century, about 1902 until 1952, the second story of our building was a bordello.
Ooh.
Nice.
It's what it is. When I bought the building, what came with it was a museum. Did not really realize, I mean, I'm focusing on getting a store moved in and remodeled and all that. And having this museum upstairs wasn't number one thing on my priority, evidently. My wife knows that. But as we moved in and got open, the phone calls coming in of people who wanted to come and do tours. I knew I was going to be doing the tours, and certainly we had to train our staff to be up on the history of it, but not really realizing how rare it was. I find out that there's only one other museum, a bordello museum in the U.S. that I know of, is in Cripple Creek, Colorado.
Wow.
And it's really more of a bed and breakfast and a kind of a chamber location. In our case, you walk upstairs and it's what it looked like in 1923.
Wow.
Even sometimes the dust and what just goes with it, it's as preserved of a time capsule as can be created. And the history behind it is so interesting because you think that it involves local families, not bad, mostly good. Even the kids that have come from that family, the ranches that have been owned by that family, to this day, the oil and gas production to the west of our community, the money produced from that goes to that family that's still alive today. Mm-hmm. So it is really an unusual history. We try to be very careful to not combine what we do in the jewelry store with what's upstairs. Okay, you know, if the world's oldest profession is on the second floor, it just makes sense that the world's second oldest profession should be downstairs.
Absolutely.
It does make sense, yeah. Yeah.
So that's our uniqueness. That's our little claim to the fact that we have something nobody else does, good or bad.
Right. Right.
Nice. So they can come for a diamond and a good time. No, no, that's.
Can you imagine? Just it's been the same and not changed since 1923. I mean the energy. And do you think it's haunted in some way? Like their spirit's still there?
Oh, we have no question about it.
Really?
It's what it is. Again, my wife will agree. When you own a building and that comes with the building, you don't have a whole lot of choice.
No, you got to be.
It's
Yeah.
what it is. We've had 2 or 3 paranormal groups that have come
Really?
in and out.
Wow.
One in particular was from Fort Worth, a real extensive paranormal. What's ironic is that I had visited with a young man before. We knew how we were going to set up and do this. But the next morning, he says, hey, you know, we really didn't get anything that can stand out, but we need to review all of the spectrographic readings and everything that come from their instrumentation. So they leave town. I lock the door. It's a Sunday morning. They were there on a Saturday night. And about 4 o'clock that afternoon, I get a call from the police department. The alarm's gone off up in the museum. It never goes off.
Yeah.
I go running down there, and the cops met me there. I mean, because really rare for that to happen. And we walk from front to back, and there's just no evidence of anything going on. Sorry, guys, you know, we'll check this out and find out what the origin of it was. It's about 20 minutes back to my house. I swear, 22 minutes later, my phone goes off again. Guys, this happened 3 times in a row. And I had no explanation. My wife did, however. She said we pissed them off.
Oh, jeez. How'd you do that?
I don't know if it was because of having that paranormal group up there.
I got you.
All I know is we had no problem.
Right.
For 5 years, we had no problem.
Right.
And in one night, I get 3 false alarms in a row. What do you think?
Was there garters flying around?
Stuff's being moved.
So, and you know, we never did that again. We've never had that issue
There
again.
you go.
Wow.
True story. It's what it was.
Maybe they stepped on some toes while they were.
You know, I asked the guy what could have, and actually he said they had this medium, and none of the rest of them liked this girl. She was just like going to control the whole thing. And one thing that did happen with her, she was in one of the bedrooms, and there's a small settee couch, and she's got her feet up on the bed or the coffee table or something, and she basically feels something kick her feet off of the table.
Really?
And one of the guys is sitting right next to her, and he's just bobbing his head. He's not saying anything. And
Wow.
what's that?
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't there present, but all the rest of them were like, hey, you know,
Hey, you
we
got
didn't, their attitude was, well, we didn't like her either.
Right.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
So it's still preserved back in the day, right? Like you said,
Yeah.
the museum. What was the stripper pole equivalent back in the day?
Really, you know, really, all considered, it was very classy. Now, here's things you got to take in consideration. This has nothing to do with jewelry so much, but it's cool that we have RJO in this kind of a venue where,
Yeah.
you know, all of us jewelers have a little story about things that are different.
Right.
Yeah.
But in what would it have been like in 1935 there? So I went to the college and I visited one of the professors out there. And I mean, you really got to look at how our grandparents basically were living back in that time. The biggest thing is there had been no women's rights movement. So in a lot of respects, if you weren't the daughter of somebody, you were the wife of somebody. But a divorced woman. So the story of the building is this couple came to San Angelo from St. Louis. They were very young, 21 and 19 or so. They build this building, they get a divorce very quickly, within 6 months of the time the building's finished. A weird settlement in the divorce. She gets the upstairs and he gets the downstairs. Don't know the reason for it. I do know, however, he left town within 30 days.
Yeah.
So she has this building, and here's this divorced woman. Ooh.
Yeah. Back
In
then.
that time frame, what would she do? The job availability, especially since there's no family affiliation, you would have learned how to sew. You would have been a maid. There's not a lot of options, okay?
No.
There is definitely one thing in hindsight, and that is she turned out to be one hell of a businesswoman. So the bordello opened sometime in 1902, thereabouts.
Yeah.
We have found lots of documentation over the years of property that she owned, ranches, and a story in particular about a ranch. You hear this, but did it really happen that she won this ranch in a poker game?
Yeah.
But I'm here to tell you, I know one of the great grandsons fairly well, and I've actually seen him write a check from the checking account that still produces oil and natural gas to this day. It's pretty cool in a lot of respects.
Yes, it is.
It's a history in a side of the world that the window's not normally open on. She was emphatic about making sure the girls were educated. She'd teach them how to read.
Oh, nice.
She would teach them basic medical things. She wanted the girls to be up on news events because if you have customers that are coming in, they're businessmen.
Right.
You need to be able to carry on a conversation. Never in a million years would I ever dream I'd spend 5 years investigating and researching a bordello, right?
Yeah.
But it's so intriguing. I got an attorney friend involved. I got his daughter involved. She was a law student at University of Texas in Austin, and we all had a ball and found a tremendous amount of cool, awesome information.
Nice.
All associated with our building.
Wow.
What a visionary Miss Hattie was. Hattie or Haiti?
Hattie, Miss Hattie.
Miss Hattie, what a visionary. 1903, yeah, she did what she could have to do. Now, do you find that because you have such a unique store, some people, obviously maybe it does help traffic, but do you have to end up doing a lot of history to, somebody comes in, it's like, wow, this is a beautiful building. Do you all, do you have to offer, or if they ask you a lot, or maybe not, do you give us the history about it, or only if they seem interested?
Boy, it's sometimes hard to condense all of that history.
Yeah, you're right.
Especially since we've learned so much in the last, 5-7 years. We really do try to keep the jewelry store separate in its own world, separate from the museum. We've had some fantastic publicity. There's a series on PBS called Day Tripper, and it's basically this young man, Chet, who a day out from a given community. And in our case, through our Convention and Visitors Bureau, he had heard about he had heard about the museum. And so he sent a person in ahead of time, how are we going to frame this as far as doing the video shoot and whatnot? And he shows up with, it was himself and his cameraman and a sound girl. And they actually put together a skit so that when they did the video part of it, it just came out fantastic. It starts with Chet and I, 2 doors down from me, leaning over an old 150-year-old wooden bar with a drink in our hand.
Nice.
And then edits it to the point where it was presented in such a way that this existed. It wasn't all bad.
Yeah.
In many cases, the business just conducted between cowboys and businessmen. You could simply come and smoke a cigar and have dinner if you wanted. A really classy gentleman's club of now. It'd be like 90 years ago.
Yeah.
Sure. Wow. How would your store be different today if it didn't have that history?
Probably not much, because that draws in its own separate people. They have to come into the jewelry store to pay the $6. That's what the tour is. Takes about half an hour. And we give them a chance to tell them about, we get a unique pearl that comes out of the rivers in our area. But in view of the fact the building was built when it was, it's 15-foot ceilings. It's all the original pressed tin painted gold. It's
beautiful.
Really beautiful.
Right.
Prior to when we moved in, for probably 30 years, it was a sporting goods store, basically a gun shop. So part of our showcases on the east side of the building are where the rifles used to be. There's built-in, which turned out to be eye-level perfect showcases. It used to be where they would put ammo.
Okay.
Is sliding glass doors with jewelry now.
Oh, neat.
I mean, the building was meant to be a jewelry store.
Right.
It just really, sometimes I walk in there, it warms my heart to look at it and see. It's, but it is something we've been careful to not let those two entities overlap.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's been probably 20 years. In-Store Magazine, we were one of their
Cool
stores. Ended up coming in, I think, 3rd or 4th for the year.
Yeah.
The publicity on that was good. But we find that really anything that's being marketed as far as the museum is concerned, Miss Hattie's Museum, it's outside our community. It could be here. It could be in Austin. It could be KHOU TV down in Houston came up and did their own shoot of a video, and we just let that be its own thing.
Yeah.
Because if we've got tourists that are coming into town anyway, it's something else they need to put on their list.
Right.
I'm not real hard sell when they come into the jewelry store. If anything, I want to talk and find out where they're from.
Yeah.
What brought you to this West Texas town that you got to come to see San Angelo? It's just not like any other place. It is very rural, but as I had one guy tell me one time, he was trying to get his wife to move to San Angelo from the Austin area because it was growing so much, and he buys her a pretty gift, and he tells her, well, honey, you don't need 3 Lowe's. One works just fine. You don't need 4 Hobby Lobbies. One works just fine.
Right.
And he's right in a lot of respects. We
Yeah.
have all of that, but we have our, as every community does, has their own, unique things.
That's right.
That's great because Lisa told me about your store and the uniqueness, and of course that might be one of the quick conversation starters about, oh, Mark's store is so cool, it's got a jewelry store but upstairs it's this. But it sounds like success did not come from the fact of having a bordello.
No, we
upstairs.
really haven't in any respect played that off of to use it as a drawing card.
So what do you
No.
think the jewelry store success, what would you attribute it to? Customer service, relationships?
2 things that has always made us different. We started doing custom work in 1969 from
A
scratch.
few years ago. Okay. Yeah.
That's been a while, right? And our emphasis has always been colored stones,
Yeah.
not diamonds. In fact, the guy that I originally went to work for, I was 17, 18 years old. Diamonds had one purpose. They were accent stones. You still don't find that anywhere.
Yeah.
And because of that, I was raised in the business, literally a freshman in college when I started the job. And I only find out later that that's what made us unique. And you got a 3-carat diamond, I will tomorrow, I'll get you one in. You got a 4-carat ruby, you bet, man, I got 5 of them.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, that's great. That's great. So, how are you? How's your store growing now, and what's your plan?
It just blows me away sometimes. We just had the best Christmas season and the best December and the best fourth quarter and the best year total. And you talk to so many of us that are here, and can you put a thumb on it? I can't. I've visited with my older customers who have come in. One guy's response was that, well, at Christmas, this was the first Christmas in quite some time that we've actually gotten interest on our money because the banks have been paying 0.00 nothing, which is true,
Right.
right? I mean, even us in the business, sitting on old inventory doesn't cost you any money.
Right.
And so, all right, I get that. On the other hand, I thought because we do have so much of the community is based on the agriculture, it had been really dry. So we didn't have much of a cotton crop. I figured that would be a real negative, and it wasn't. It just didn't exist. Farmers, a lot of them had the insurance, and that was a godsend by itself. So what we were seeing was a higher average sale, and it just turned out to be the best Christmas ever.
That's great.
But we're also kind of the old guys in town. I am the old guy in town, and I love it because. I love the millennials and everything. I got, we got 4 of them that have grown up and gone out on their own. But I'm, approaching 65, and I kind of have an issue with their mindset sometimes.
Join the club.
But I am so learning, and I feel like that's going to be where the future is.
Yeah.
Why we did as well as we did is we call it the way we see it. When I see something that was badly repaired, or they went somewhere and said, well, this piece needs this, this, and this, and 10 out of 11 jewelers here would say there's nothing wrong with it. You just need to tighten the stones. We have always stuck to that mantra. You call it the way you see it, because that's the truth.
Right.
And that pays off.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's so many jewelers here where we all know each other.
Yeah.
And that is probably our single biggest relationship we have and we've talked about different jewelers and and that why are they successful? I think it's because we all really do subscribe to that mindset.
Right. So what advice would you give to maybe a new jeweler or people just kind of figuring it out. What would you do?
Yeah, with RJO and their whole next generation thing, I was kind of querying a few people here because to me some of those questions are questions we also need to be asking our own staff.
Yep.
So that we can better understand them. Boy, you got to watch every single dollar. These days, you think, well, I ordered that little piece in from Stoller and it was $6. I'll just keep it. That will eat your lunch in a year's period of time.
Yeah, true.
If there was any single thing, it's that little stuff that takes away from that real aha on December 31st because you realize how much of it was there.
Right.
We're discounting. I don't know that that's so much an issue maybe with independence anymore.
Yeah.
Because a lot of us do our own thing. I don't get how stores make it when they don't have a jeweler on site. I've got two, and that's exciting in its own respect because the one guy's like 71 and the other one's like 38. And the cool thing about the 71-year-old, he's old school and he has how he does stuff. Right. If there's a piece or a part you don't have, you don't wait 3 days for it to come in from Stoller. You make it yourself.
Right.
And that's the only thing is a lot of the younger kids, I'm not sure that they can do that unless they've had that tutelage and wisdom to know how to do it.
Yeah.
Wow.
There's a question that came up actually from a customer. Would you rather have knowledge or would you rather have wisdom? Yeah, right.
Wow.
Well, hands down in our business, I want wisdom. The knowledge is the foundation of it, but we all know that the wisdom comes from learning from others.
Right.
And it changes in this industry, every 30 days.
Yeah. It's making mistakes and learning from them and just keeping on and believing in yourself.
Yep.
You're right. I think wisdom
Wow.
over that. Very interesting. It's good.
Wow. Yeah. This is very cool. So now you things have been going well. You have a great staff, it sounds like.
Yep.
And
very blessed with that. So
we
blessed.
We got to get the staff in so you can.
You
We're going to do one last at the end, but can we do some rapid fire questions on Mark?
Do it.
You want them over here?
No, this is just you're answering my rapid fire questions.
Okay.
Finish this phrase. The way to my heart is.
Oh, I don't think this is jewelry related when I'm going to answer.
That should be jewelry.
No, you guys got to consider I'm here in Texas. A new shotgun.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay. What advice would you give an employee on their first day?
Have patience.
Good deal. If you could not work in this industry, what profession would you pursue?
Hands down, I'd be out there finding really unique fossils and minerals because it is a world all into itself.
Yeah. That's why he goes to Tucson every year.
That's right.
I think that's where I first met you. Who is your celebrity crush?
Look at the faces.
The problem is they're not even going to know the names of the people I mentioned.
But I will. Lord, they won't because they're,
Probably one of my favorite was
celebrity
Olivia Newton-John when I was like 30 or 40. She was so hot.
Let's get physical. That's a
They'd
good
have to
one.
look up the name. They wouldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. See?
There you go.
You're the one I want. Yep, you're right. Okay. Do you wake up early or late?
Early.
Good. What is the best advice you have ever received?
History is the memory of the world.
Mm.
Wow.
And history is my real thing that I really do like because that is so true. And when we don't keep that history there, then we forget things and bad stuff happens. History is the memory of the world. That's not my quote, but none of us could ever find where it came from, and it's just one of the almost awesome truisms.
Very true. Well, Mark, tell me, what did you buy last as an impulse buy?
Some men's jewelry, some of the multi-leather bracelets, and it was totally driven by our staff.
Did you go by
And-
Inox?
Exactly. The line
Shout out to
changed.
Inox. He just opened up a new customer here at the RJO show. Sebas, yo, bro. That's their new hashtag.
You know, we were in, our son had graduated from college and we'd gone to Pensacola. We stayed at Margaritaville. Great place. And we're sitting at the bar and there's this guy over next to me, not a whole lot younger than I am. And he's got this good looking, triple looking bracelet on. And I don't know who it was made from, but I asked him, I said, you know, where did you get that? And he turns his head to the left, looks at his wife. Where did you get that? She's like, I don't remember. And I said, well, how long have you had it? And she was like 5-6 years. And I thought, you know, he's worn that all these years and it was a gift from her to him. And he would never be caught without it. Well, that's a lot of what we do. I just remember because we found, like in Tucson, we have found dinosaur bone beads.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, that's kind of stuff. And I don't have anything like that in the store and I need it.
Mm-hmm.
We need to appeal. They're not buying a wedding ring next week or next year, maybe. But maybe he got a little gift from a girlfriend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that opens the door.
Got
And
it.
that's business for the next generation.
Wow. Fantastic.
There you go.
Good afternoon.
Well, good
I'm a
afternoon.
representative from Allen Sutton Jewelry and R.M. Johnson and Sons Jewelry. Could you come up to the front registration?
Glad you edit
desk?
this, huh?
That would be
Yeah, oh, yeah.
appreciated. Thank you.
It's a real podcast. But if do you see working in the jewelry store for many more years?
Probably not.
Okay.
I had one customer, in fact, at Christmas time, he just simply said, well, I know you're not going to be doing this forever. I just got to make sure I'm one of your 100 you're going to choose. And I said, what do you mean? He said, well, you got to choose a few of us because we have your cell phone number. Meaning he's going to call
they're still
whether
gonna
I'm
call
doing
you.
this or not.
Yeah.
So
Well-
I don't know that you can ever really, get away from it.
Yeah.
But we do like the fossil mineral business.
Yeah.
There's a lot of big ranches out where we are, and those people will buy really unusual things. I've had a run on petrified wood benches. It's just this slab that you can sit on outside. But like one of the ladies told me, she wants 2 of them because she feels like she can put that out on the ranch. And you know what? 100 years from now, that's still going to be sitting there.
Right.
It's what it's going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
This is
Yeah.
amazing.
It's heritage.
Well, can we introduce all the staff over here? Since we are at the show, how nice is it that Mark and his lovely wife Laurel, they came and brought their staff.
The entire staff.
The entire
yeah.
staff, so they could learn. They've been up and down the aisles. It's just pretty darn amazing.
And we closed the store on Saturday so they'd all have time to get here.
Come on in here, Laurel. The brains behind.
Come over this side because it's.
There's our camera there.
All right. So why don't we? Who we got?
I'm Sadie.
Sadie.
I'm Megan. Raven. Rebecca. And Laura.
All
All
right.
right. Well, congratulations. Amazing.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Guy.
but they have a
Thank
great
you.
staff. They're longtime RJO vendors. This is why, how did y'all think of the show? I mean, did you learn a lot? How motivated are you going to be to go back to the store and say, oh, I just got back from the greatest trade event. Look what I found out. Look what I learned.
There's a lot of cool things here that we didn't know that there was here.
Right.
There's a lot of questions that we asked that we got answers from, like good answers. So I'm really glad to hear about that.
That's fantastic.
Nice.
Mhm.
Well,
Well,
good.
Mark, congratulations everyone for such an creating an amazing business.
Thank you, Guy.
And thank you for joining us here at the Pearls of Wisdom Jewelry Podcast.
Don't forget, if you're ever in St. Angelo, Texas, please go visit Miss Hattie's and go say hello to all these cute girls. And so thank you, Mark. They're great people. And
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for listening to the Pearls of Wisdom Jewelry Podcast. For more information about the show, please visit southernjewelrynews.com/podcast, brought to you by Southern Jewelry News and Jewelry Store Marketers. Make sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform so you can catch the next show. See you then.